Okay, are we rolling? Sweet. Okay. So really, I just wanted to play around with. I was watching some of the uh, Remix Jam today conference in Toronto. They were talking about their new version of Remix with events, like based on a lot of different stuff. It seemed like, but one of the cool things I saw was talking about events, using custom events, um, capturing and emitting them. Um, and until that, uh, you know, that's out and something that, we can try out, I figured it could be fun to try something else out. So I kind of had this idea that I wanted to work on, um, where I could something about like playing a game, creating a game that would run sort of in a room, um, like in a Zoom room kind of thing, something along those lines. Um, but something where I could use XState, the um, like state management / state machine library. There's a lot in it, but you can use that to sort of create custom events and along those lines. So I'm sort of picturing something where you have a WebSocket server. I'm going to use Cloudflare and Durable Objects, and it's going to emit events down to clients, and clients are going to emit events up. And you can have basically play a game that way. And, the client will have a version of the state. The server will have the whole state. You could do optimistic writes on the client, and just sort of play around with some of those things. So honestly, this is going to be a bit of just an exploration of some of those tools and working with those together. I haven't used XState much, and I don't use durable objects or WebSockets much. So that's all going to be really just me playing around. Um, so I went ahead and created. I'm just using this Cloudflare create for React Router v7. It comes with pretty much all the starting stuff I'll need. Something else I really like about it is compared to some other frameworks, there is a the actual worker file gets created, and then in the build process, they give you this virtual v import that gets turned into which is where they get that request handler for the fetch. So I can pretty easily hook in there and add my durable object and serve things that way. Not that you can't do it with other things, but I figured that would be pretty easy. So I sort of stripped out, it comes with some default things. I stripped that out. Let's put this over here. So I stripped out everything, just have this now. And I am going to, I think the first thing I'm going to do is add my, let me just double check here. I'm going to make a folder for durable object code. I just like using the at symbol more. So get rid of this. I don't need that. Let's see. Okay. just going to get rid of a lot of the stuff that I don't think we really are going to use. Okay. I'll make a provider that we will wrap in here. Let's add in DO. That's where we're going to put our durable object code. So it's going to be DO game server import. I think it's from. So I think that's what it is. I have some tabs up. I can go through those. This is, I think, client stuff. And WebSocket, let's see. Durable object, Cloudflare workers. Why isn't that at DO? Oh, you know what? We need to include that. DOI. Sweet. Nope. Well, there we go. Okay. So we're going to call it export class game server. Cool. Close that. Constructor. I don't know if we need that yet. Oh, you know what? I think it needs that. And that's the issue. Cool. I am just going to copy this and put that in there. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Accept. Connects. Great. Great. We need to add our bindings and migrations. I think that's about the new storage moving from, I think it was like moving from key value to SQLite based. I want to say I remember reading. Expect a comma. There we go. Let's go into this. We are going to call it game server. Class name is game server. New SQLite classes. I'm just going to assume that's the same. And now in here, we need to import from DO game server. Actually, export. There we go. And now we need to pass our fetch in here. So I'm going to come back to, I'm just going to put this in kind of as is, just to make sure we have it working. But then I'm going to come back to it because I was thinking about, I think rather than just one room, I think I'm going to do a, let's see here, get by name. This is just one room here, but I'm going to do different rooms. So I think I'm going to want to add another parameter here. So it's going to be like WebSocket room ID. But we'll come back to that. For now, I just want to make sure this works, and I think we need to run cf typegen, which is in here, and that's going to get our Wrangler types. And now we have game server. Oh, this stopped working though. How's that? Good. Let's pull up the network tab. And let's just put a button in here. And I'm going to make a function called ping. You know what? I guess let's just do it in React stuff. We are going to store WebSocket is undefined. Where's that? Okay. Button clicked. Now in here, let's do, we'll just add a little cleanup. Okay. We'll make this a ping. And we will make this let's see, we're going to make this do a, so we're going to make the server here. And I think that's just, not localhost though, it's WebSocket. And in here, we need to hold on one sec. Okay, sorry about that. I want to go back to MDN. I think it just auto connects, I guess. Okay, so ws dot add event listener connection open. There we go. Cool. And store it. And then in here, we're going to do, yeah, there we go. Okay, don't worry about it. Ref. Okay, well, that's why we need WebSocket or no. There we go. Okay. And then what did we copy over? Nothing for game server yet. Oh no, we did. Okay. Cool. On close, it's gonna say something. Connection failed. Oh, I don't think. Oops, that shouldn't be in there. Connected, great. And ping. Great. And if I go somewhere else, it closes. Okay, cool. That's working, more or less. Next, I think we could do the rooms, but I think I am going to come back to that later. There's a couple other things around, you know, better WebSocket handling in durable objects, rooms, and hibernating so that, you know, if we deploy this, it won't be just running forever and driving up a bill. So I think this best practice there is adding some sort of hibernation so that it will basically not run when it doesn't need to and kind of just run when there's JavaScript that needs to run. Okay, cool. So we need to add XState. And then I think we can kind of just work on the game a little bit. So let's make game lib game. So this, I think, is going to have a few different parts. What if, for now, we just start with trying to think for the game machine, export, const game machine. So I feel like we kind of want to have I think our game is going to want to be, maybe we start with something simple like rock, paper, scissors or something like that. Will this work? Something to test. If I make another window, console ping, turns it back, but what if we do send dispatch event? Is that what it is? Like broadcast send. How do you send to everybody? WebSockets, fetch, blah, 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 blah. Let's look at here. WebSocket servers. Open on message on close. Send. That's not really what I want. Here we go. I think this looks more like it. Nope. Upgrade website, blah, blah. This is client. Maybe I have to like store all of them and loop over or something like that. Huh. That's fun. I don't want to watch it. Okay, I think the reason is we're going to need to keep like a map with everything in there and then broadcast to all the clients as we go. Where would that be? Web sockets. Great. Okay. What does this look like? I think that's client side. Where is the... I don't know. I don't like that. in memory state. Oh, maybe this is it. Get WebSockets. Okay. Let's say it's that for now. If let's say that for now. Okay. Whoops. Am I missing something here? Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so we have one, and where did our other window go? Ping shows up there. Okay. Yeah, let's say someone else said and then send that back. Sweet. And we can come back to more about that. Okay, so now back in the game. Let's see. I'm going to say I wonder if in here maybe we can make a sessions. What is sessions? In the constructor, let's go to TypeScript. Cool. What is the key value? Gotta be keep track of blah blah. Okay. Okay, so sessions. Cool. Get all WebSocket sessions. I don't know if I'm not sure what the key value string to string is. Attachments. What are attachments? That I don't think we really need now, but whatever. Let's put it in. So I think this is the hibernation stuff. Cool. Great. That makes sense. So we're going to make a accept it, make a new ID for the session. Well, I don't know what that means, but okay. Attach the session ID to the WebSocket connection and serialize it. This is necessary to restore the state. I don't get why it's like, I get serializing it. I don't get why it's not going anywhere. You know, why wouldn't I can see serializing it and then setting, storing that somewhere. Oh, maybe it's just, oh, I see. This is different. Okay. So this is maybe back up here, deserialize. There you go. Okay. That makes sense. And then we're also putting it in the map. Okay, so I feel like that makes sense if this is, when the durable object is off, gets shut off and is not running, that's going to be serialized, and that gets this game server will be reinitialized. This will run. You'll get the deserialized attachment for each one and load that in. The key value is just some data. Set sessions for each. Okay. And then we get the session for that user on WebSocket message. Oh, I don't know why we're not deleting it. I would think we would remove it here. But what do I know? Okay. All right. Something else I heard some, tech podcasts recently. I heard someone talking about how they were talking about working with, I think it was the Rivet. I think it was this. Which I think is sort of like an open source version, or open core or whatever version of Cloudflare Workers. I think it originally was for like meant to be for like multiplayer games, but then sort of has expanded out into, it can be anything. It can be, just open source durable objects, which seems like a cool idea. Okay, so, oh yeah. Anyway, sorry, sidetrack there. But I think what I heard them say in that podcast was something along the lines of like, um, any sort of sufficiently sized project using durable objects ends up creating some sort of dashboard to view the state and interact with your durable objects. And there is a new-ish library from TanStack for dev tools, which seems interesting. So if you've used TanStack router or query, TanStack start, they have dev tools for those, and they have them that will, you sort of put one in one corner, put one in the other corner. But I think recently, I'm guessing it's because they sort of have continued to add tools that use dev tools, but don't have, they're running out of like corners to put these things in. So, okay, well, that's not gonna work. Let me reload this. Let's see. So basically, this is a package where it's sort of one place to put all of the dev tools at once. So if this works, no? Okay. this one. There we go. Okay. So in here, oh, that's fun. So just one button. Used to be you'd have that here, and then you'd have another one there. But here is your 10-sec query dev tools, your 10-sec router dev tools, your package.json. I don't know if that's standard or if that's like a custom thing. And some other stuff, DevTools behavior. But anyway, the point is it could be a cool place to put, make some DevTools at some point for this and put those in there. Let me see. Okay, so I'm going to go back to, let's go back to XState and think about, maybe we start with this. So I feel like the idea is going to be you have basically we're going to have the same state machine. So let's say it's for now it's count, but you know, in the future it will be something like a card game. But the count will be sort of duplicated between duplicated between all three. So then when we have a increment event, for example, that gets sent up, this will temporarily, we can have sort of like an optimistic write. And in XState, you see you have this like context with data. And that's what we're setting here. Maybe we optimistically increment that and apply it here first while we send that up. And then if it's approved, you know, maybe we have a turn. And maybe that goes back and forth. And if it's this person's turn, even if they try to do this, it won't work and this will get rejected and it'll fall back to 0. But if it is their turn and this is all, you know, state that's shared between the three and the definitive state is on the server, if it's approved, this will go to 1 and it will send back down that it'll send it to other clients and, you know, I don't know, whatever we can figure out, either maybe you put an ID or something, we'll figure something out, but to say like, yes, that was approved or whatever. And then this goes away and these both go to 1 and turn goes over here. If that makes sense. So that's sort of the idea. And then I think that can sort of expand a little bit once we get into some slightly more complicated state. It might have, you know, who's, let's just say turn, we'll say user hands So that's like who has what cards, deck, and let's say that's the main stuff. Points or whatever. And maybe hands is face up, face down. So this is the sort of definitive server state. This is cross out. No. Let's do this. Doesn't have that. But it does have. So if that sort of makes sense, the idea is the server has the definitive state for all users, what cards are in the deck, what order when new cards get pulled. But each of the clients only has sort of a subset of that. So they have the sort of shared, like you're sitting at a table playing cards. You have the same info about whose turn it is, or what game. That could be other things. That could be like, you're waiting, you're dealing, you're however that goes. Then you have client one's hand, which is both the maybe the I don't even have a game in particular I'm thinking of, but like let's say you have face up cards and face down cards. The face up cards, everyone blackjack or whatever. You have the your own face up cards and your face down cards. You can see the other users' face up cards, but you can't see their face down cards. And you can't see any info about the deck, and whatever points. So then events can be sent up to the server, and they may be rejected. They could be rejected because it isn't your turn. They could be rejected because it's not a move you can do. Whatever reason. It could be rejected because you're trying to change the points or something like that. And then we sort of progress in the same way. So I feel like the first step, we'll try something like count. And the second step, just getting those sort of events flowing through, getting that wired up to WebSockets, and, getting the feel for that. Then we can move to something like basic cards. And then we can actually make it a real game like blackjack or something like that. Okay. So back in here, I don't think haven't used XState a lot. There is in here, I think so, XState store, which is sort of like, you could use it as sort of state management for like React. And maybe that will be a good something to connect in here. I think it sort of is a subset or builds on top of regular XState state machines, but more geared towards the how you would use it actually in a React app to store app state. But then I think it was originally just state machines, and then they sort of expanded out into a little more generic version of actors, so that it can sort of encapsulate multiple different things. And they have these sort of different concepts here. And I don't know, I'm not 100% sure because I haven't really gone too deep into this, but I don't think, there you go, there's XState store. I don't think necessarily they have that concept of, built in concept of connecting, like distributed state or like CRDTs or something along those lines. So we may be wiring that up ourselves a little bit. But we'll look around and see what we can find. I think even just sort of some of the basic stuff of where were we? Quick start here. Where was I for that? Setup, maybe? Some of this I don't, like, I don't know what is the difference between events and actions, I guess, is a question. I guess that makes sense. The event is what like gets triggered. The action is the result of the event, maybe. That makes sense. Seems like a little bit, I don't know, but promise actors. And I think context is sort of going to be the main, that's where the state is going to be stored. What is states, and is that different? I don't know. I guess that's what state you're in. So maybe if we had like my turn, your turn, waiting, whatever, game over, maybe that would be there for sort of transitioning. And then that sort of, maybe that would split up into, again, there's sort of different views on that, and context is where we're storing this stuff. So that's where we can have, maybe the states will be different between the clients and the server, where the states will be like, on the server might be, waiting for a client or updating state or sending out updates or, whatever. Whereas the clients would have, my turn, waiting for, waiting for server confirmation. And that's like, you did the optimistic write and you're waiting to hear back, or something along those lines, or just other users' turn or game over. Guards, okay. I think this is going to be a good place to stop for right now, and I will come back to this. But yeah, so next step, I'll come back and I will work on wiring up state machines, and building that out, actions and events, and the state for both client and server for different games. But yeah, okay, cool. To be continued.